Join us on a journey of a hard lesson learned in hopes that someone uses it to not do the same.
Yeah, I've never, ever felt wind like that.
We knew it was time. We knew we should have
gone.
This story begins in Oklahoma City and a few days of dodging some shaky weather through the week. Unlike many other residents across town, we were very lucky and grateful to have barely skated the worst of it.
Service in Norman has issued a severe thunderstorm warning for.
We're gonna go until it either rains us out or we're tired of walking and we want to move.
Parking at the park and just walking around definitely worked out a lot better.
Is that a tornado siren? Seriously?
It can't be.
Could be.
There's no warnings, just a flood watch is all we got. But that does sound like a tornado siren. You know, it's late October, but we are in the South, we are in Oklahoma, and there's some pretty nasty weather cranking up out west of us tonight. It's our last morning here in Oklahoma City, and last night was kind of a long night. Even though it's November 3rd, you can still get tornadoes in the South this time of year, so you always have to be on the lookout. So far, I don't see any damage to the truck. I don't see any damage to the trailer. No hail dings or anything like that. I don't even think I heard hail here last night. I think we just lucked out.
We hit the road to our next planned stop in Lawton, Oklahoma. Knowing that there were some storms coming in, we timed our arrival strategically to get ahead of the bad weather.
Well, our short travel day is about to come to a close. Just made my last turn before we get to the campground, and it's like drive 3 miles and turn right on unpaved road. Now, if you watch our last episode, you know we've had a lot of storms in the Oklahoma City area. I think this area's got, 2.5, 3.5 inches of rain, depending on where they measured yesterday. So we're gonna go down an unpaved road and we're gonna see how bad we can trash our truck and trailer, apparently.
Aren't you glad that you didn't clean it?
I'm never glad I didn't clean it, but I'm really glad I spent up for 4-wheel drive, just in case.
Cody panicking. Surprise, surprise.
I don't think I panicked. I just, who wants to get their truck all dirty?
They have storm shelters here.
They have storm shelters, nice.
Something that we have found, and I can't speak for every campground in Oklahoma, but all of them that I've looked at, or at least a very large portion of them, they have storm shelters. So being in a very volatile state, that's really comforting. Some of them do not allow pets in the storm shelters.
The last place didn't.
I'm all about following the rules, but I'm here to tell you mine would probably accidentally end up in my coat.
I would be breaking that rule in a hurry.
I dare you tell me to go back out in the nader. All right, check it in.
There's a lot of things we're picking up and learning about on these new modern diesels, and I know in the old days kind of the rule was, and I'm talking like the old 7.3 Power Strokes, the old Cummins, pre-DPF, pre-DEF stuff. And what I grew up hearing was it's easier to let one idle than it is to shut it off and turn it on and shut it off and turn it on. And even with all that said, with these new emission systems, idle can be your enemy, particularly low speed idle. It just tends to plug up the DPF a little faster. I've dealt with that on the commercial side quite a bit. On the commercial side, generally the trucks that have the highest idle are the ones that have the most DPF and regen and emissions related issues. So that's something to think about there. So I am trying to keep the idle time on this truck around 10%. I think right now we're averaging about 11 and a half according to the readout on the screen. But one thing to note if you're getting into the diesel world is if you're working them, you're running them down the interstate, you're towing, you're doing whatever, those turbos get really hot. The turbos have oil lines coming in and return lines coming out. So when you come off the interstate and you've been hammering hard, towing hard, whatever, you've got excessively hot oil in that excessively hot turbo. So you do want to let it idle for a little bit. The book actually has some timelines in there about how long they recommend to idle after towing or running it really hard down the interstate. So in those situations, you do want to idle just a little bit to allow the turbos to cool down so that you get nice cool oil running through the turbo. And I'm talking like not one time shutting it off, but over extended periods of time. If you never let them idle down when they're super hot, what can happen is as that oil comes out of the turbo down the return line, it can start to cook, kind of like a clogged artery, and restrict oil flow in and out of the turbo. And over time, that can cause you to prematurely burn up your turbo. Way back when I was a Volkswagen technician and we had twin turbo 4 cylinders or turbo 4 cylinders on gas and diesel, and we saw that quite often, people that would just run them hard down the interstate and then just swing into a gas station and just kill it. So we always advised our customers that if you're running them hard, let them idle a minute or two. I usually do that while we're sitting here waiting on check-in, or I'll do that while we're setting the rig up. Just let it run 2 or 3 minutes after you've been working it hard. Let that hot oil get out, the cool oil get in, make those turbos last a little longer.
She's like, you better go ahead and get settled before the rest of the storm comes in, which was the plan.
Yep. We're against the clock.
It's coming. She said, I tried to get you something real solid so you wouldn't get too muddy trying to get set up. So we're going to pull through here.
Okay.
And then that Sabre right there, we're on this side of
the
it.
Sabre?
Sabre. And she was really sweet. She gave me a lot of great suggestions for the town nearby, which a little bit I knew, but I hadn't really locked in an itinerary yet. So she gave me some really great ideas for us to go hang out.
You mean we're winging it?
No, I just haven't done my itinerary yet. They got a lot of what we got.
Is this us right here at this nice concrete pad? Sweet.
I think that is what she was saying. She got me something to help with the muddiness.
All right, well, I would say travel day went as close to plan as one ever can. Our goal was to get in here in the break of the rain and the storms, and we did that, and we got here, and I thought, man, I'm just going to do a quick hookup, like a power cord and nothing else, because we already had some water in the tank, and our gray tanks were empty, and yada yada. So I thought, worst case, I'll just hook up a power cord so we have air, call it good. We had time to get Starlink out, sewer hoses hooked up. I'm still going to go ahead and burn off the water that I have on board right now. There's just no reason to waste it or let it go stagnant. So we're here. We got our first severe thunderstorm warning of the day out of the way. No problems there. A little bit of gusty wind, a lot of rain, and we've got tornado warnings popping up all around us and tornado watches coming up all around us. So it could be an interesting night. We're going to try to keep the camera close, and hopefully we have nothing to report tomorrow.
At 2:45 p.m. Central Standard Time. At 2:09 p.m. Central Standard Time, a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located 4 miles south of Indiana.
At this point, we were going back and forth to determine if we were actually on the outskirts and if we needed to go into the shelters. We could feel the shift in the atmosphere.
There's a wall that's coming at us. This thing's coming at us. It's the wall of rain. Feel it.
So we just talked at the table a little while ago about how the perfect travel day went perfectly to plan, and we got here before the weather, and yada yada yada. So probably 20 minutes after I shot that clip, things got a little bit interesting, and the warnings started going off, and so on and so forth. And honestly, me being the weather bug that I am, I'm looking at the radar, and I'm looking at the wind, and I'm watching the local news, and I thought, the worst of it is going to go north of us. We're going to be fine. We're looking around in the campground, and
But at the same time, we knew it was time. We knew we should have
gone. We made a really bad judgment call because you do get complacent. We have been through a lot of storms that turned out to be nothing, and we did get a little bit complacent there. But luckily, we made the decision we were going to leave.
In cash, which is what, that direction by probably 20 miles, maybe 30.
we're watching it and we get to looking at it closer and the storm starts to shift just a little bit. I pulled up Google Maps and saw how close we were to the city they were talking about that was going to get nailed. And
at this point, I had a young lady come to me and say, "What are you guys going to do?" And I said, "I don't know yet."
The correct answer to her question should have been yes. If you want to go, we'll go too. The shift in the storm took a lot of people by surprise, and the precious moments of hesitation were almost too late.
She almost didn't go to the shelter because of a decision that we were making to wait. I've never been so scared in my entire life.
I mean, we literally had a 10-second conversation. Angela had a little bag packed, and we were going to get in the truck and drive south of the storm and wait it out with the dogs. And
you don't have time to make those decisions.
By the time, I mean, she had 2 dogs in the truck, and the wind caught me. I could barely get the door closed. We could barely get the dogs out of the truck because they panic. We take off running with the dogs. She loses a shoe. It flies away.
I don't have my shoes.
We don't even, I mean, I can see where she lost them, and I don't see them. I saw one shoe fly off, and the wind caught it, and it was gone. She kicked the other shoe off to run. And we got in the shelter, and for probably a solid 30 minutes, it was pretty wicked. It was, it was safe. It was standing room only. They had 4 nice storm shelters here. Everybody that went in there walked out safe. And
there was a young family driving by. Thankfully, they thought to come in and pull in. They had 2 little bitty kids. They were terrified. They got them in the shelter. We delayed making a decision that we always are very cognizant.
We had all the gear in the world.
We're the people that are prepared. Us.
For weather, anyway. We're prepared.
Well, yeah, we're prepared. We, in advance, we're like, let's be proactive and do this or do that. And we delayed. And we almost caused someone else to delay.
And it got windy. I mean, it was shaky in there.
Well, and some of them had spouses and people out on the road that were in the middle of this. So woe is me that
I just know
it's not about us.
There was an older lady in there that was really cool. Don't know who she was. Don't know her story. But she was kind of, with strangers, kids, trying to calm them down. And she was on her phone talking to people that lived around here.
She kind of took charge,
She kind of took charge of it and made sure everybody had information.
It's all right, Mama. We're in, and we're going to be all right.
So glad that I got here when I did.
Yeah.
And, that was huge, just to see people come together like that. And,
well, we just sat in the corner shaking.
We had some hail from what I can see. It's kind of dark. I think the truck's okay. I'll look at it when the daylight comes out. But it's when you're down there, and a lot of you have probably been there, when you're down there in that situation. And I mean, I know when we were running, after you knocked on her door and we were running,
we didn't know if we would
I didn't know if we were going to get there in time. I really, for the first time in my life, and I've been around a lot of storms, I was terrified.
The pressure and the force
everything changes.
Of it coming, it was split second. Why were we so stupid to think that we could control that?
Feel your ears pop because the atmospheric pressure changes.
So scary.
And when we were down there, we weren't, or I wasn't, thinking about what about the truck, what about the trailer. I just wanted to get out of there.
Well, I just hope there weren't people that didn't go. I'm just angry with myself right now. I don't mean to be over emotional or over sensationalized because it's not about that. But my feelings are my feelings, and I don't have them under control now.
And we've always, especially since we went, full-time RVing. I mean, when we lived at home, when the sirens came on, we went to the basement. We didn't worry about it. We didn't try to, maybe it'll miss us, or I think it's going to go north of us. We just went to the basement, and we've historically done that. And in honesty, the last couple of times, we've kind of got lackadaisical with it. So maybe we go back to the old way of when the sirens go off and the phones go crazy, we do what we tell everyone else to do.
The dogs... They're flipping out. But people had animals still in their RVs too, so that was a fear.
Some people left their animals behind because they didn't think they could get out in time. And
man, you don't really... There's really no way to explain it.
I know you had your bag, and you've shown it on here before, what we put together, or what you put together.
That's the one thing we did
when the
right.
weather gets bad.
Is we plugged in our weather radio, and we packed our bag.
And that bag was right there by the door, and when we made the call to go, albeit it was almost too late, we grabbed the bag, we grabbed the dogs, we shut the door, and we rolled.
It had our wallets. It had some water. because you don't know how long you may be in a shelter. We had their leashes in case we needed it. Of course, we just grabbed them. And I had 2 jackets right by the bag, ready for us to toss them on. Oh, and our phones were in the bag. So we were able to, the service wasn't great in the shelter, but we were able to reach out to our families. We do have family that has our GPS locations. That's something I think we could talk about here. What do you do? Do you do the Life 360 with your family? Do you communicate before you go off on a hike or in a dangerous situation?
Is it just a quick email to a dozen people on a group list that...
We always communicate with someone, but we're never consistent, and we don't really have a process. So maybe that's something we need to build as a process, and I'd be curious to know what other people do.
We won't wait that long again. When the sirens,
We will not do this
when
again.
the sirens come on and we're under a tornado warning, we're seeking shelter. We've sat through some nasty winds and severe thunderstorms, but I'm telling you,
Why?
I've never,
Why did we wait?
ever felt wind like that. I thought it was going to blow me over
We didn't
right
think we
before
would
I got
make
in the
it.
shelter. I thought it was going to take me off my feet.
We had the weight of the dogs, we had the bag, and it felt like we were dragging 7 people.
I mean, God forbid anybody runs into that on the highway while they're towing a rig. Do anything but be exposed to this, because that was, in the grand scheme of tornadoes and stuff like that, that was probably nothing. And there's no major damage here at the park, so I don't want to know what it's like when there's something.
We are very upset with ourselves and the decisions we made in the moment when we knew what the right decision was, and we almost caused someone else to wait. I'm not happy with myself right now.
This is shame on us, and don't be like us in this situation. And remember this the next time you run into a situation on the road or even at home where there's, the threat of tornadoes and straight line winds and stuff like that. Just be smarter than us, learn from us.
I'm gonna bring my adrenaline down for a little. I need a moment.
Yeah.
I need to chill.
All right, we'll sign off for now.
And dry clothes.
You are the ultimate Southern woman, I think.
How so?
Like, you go from running from a tornado about an hour ago to cooking chicken dumplings on a Sunday with a glass of wine.
My adrenaline is still not down. This is how I'm processing. Cheers. Look, sunshine.
And the trailer's still here.
Trailer's still here.
Which means the tornado did not touch down last night. I realized as we shot that clip there later in the evening, we didn't really cover the fact that we didn't have any touchdowns.
I don't know that we were coherent.
I think we were both pretty well out of sorts by the time we shot that clip. So,
Yes.
Pretty scary night.
It was scary. It was, we didn't really sleep really well, just the anxiety from it, even though we know that it turned out okay. The dogs apparently were a little rattled too, because they dreamt and kicked me in the side all night.
Yeah, and we got another day of this starting up today. We're really not sure how this video is going to end. We almost didn't film anything because of the way yesterday went, but we thought, we share our lives with you guys, and this is part of our life and what's going on right now, so we wanted to make sure and share it, hopefully as a cautionary tale to you guys. We woke up this morning, or I did, to go to the gym and looked at the weather, and there's some rain out there, thinking no big deal, and I no more rolled into the gym than Angela texted me and said, hey, tornado warning, going to the cellar again. So
Yep, so 4:30 this morning, I was in the cellar, It was a little preemptive because it was on the other side of the county, but I was too rattled to not go ahead and just go.
We don't play. At the time that you got the warning, it wasn't even raining yet, and I texted her back and said, it's not raining, you got time to get your stuff and walk down there, whereas last night we were running with the dogs in our hands and a bag, and, you know, I think I mentioned it yesterday. I mean, I didn't think we were going to make it to the cellar.
So we are being very cautious today and watching it. There's an even more severe line coming through. So obviously there was a discussion of what should we do. We saw a lot of people hauling out of here really fast.
A lot of early hook up and go today.
But there's not many directions we can go to avoid it.
There's really not. If you're looking at it, and big shout out to Ryan Hall, y'all, on YouTube. I've been watching him all morning. And the way the system's set up, we're in that kind of that hatched, high risk, enhanced, you know, EF3 tornado risk or bigger area, which is not ideal. But if we go south, almost fell. But if we go south to, say, Dallas, we're going to be driving right in the bad line. If we go east back towards our home base in Arkansas, we're going to be driving through all this stuff. And I think before we walked outside, it's about lunchtime, and there's like 8 tornado warnings and 6 severe thunderstorm warnings already. So we're going to be driving through that mess to get there. About the only thing we could do would be to try to get a couple 100 miles west, and that's not completely out of the risk zone. It's just in a little better risk. So we're going to stay here where we have underground storm shelters and resources. You know, I had a good friend back home that owns a ranch that says, you know, you can waste your whole life trying to outthink the weather, and sometimes you just got to take your best shot and roll with it. So that's what we're doing.
That's what we're doing, and hopefully we have nothing to report, and we can wrap this video up. I don't want to add any more to this video.
This is not the video we came here to make. We had a couple of other ideas, and we're going to get to that as soon as this mess gets out of the way, because it looks like after today, the storm risk really goes down for the next several days. So we got one day, and in theory, we should have clearer skies and be able to bring you guys the stuff you want to see, which is what we're doing.
So, good news, I found my shoes. Now, I had to wade through a lot of water.
I can't believe you found them.
A lot of sight. He told me, he said, don't even try. You're not going to find them. And I came back proud as a peacock, both of them in hand. Now, they weren't anywhere close to each other, and I had to walk a ways to get them. My feet were pretty cut up from last night.
Angela's trying to get the dogs in the truck. I'm right here trying to force the door shut. And I don't know why, in my infinite wisdom, I thought it needed to be locked. So I fumbled with that for a little bit, trying to hold it and lock it.
It's called panic.
It's called panic. And so I turned to go to the truck, and I didn't remember last night, but I remember now that my hat just kind of took off. I glanced at it and said, to heck with it. And we came right over to the truck, and by the time I got here to the edge of this little porch, she was trying to force the door shut on the truck. I could barely stand up, at which point I said, forget the truck, get the dogs, go to the shelter, which is way down there by the office. I hate to point into the camera, I know it's kind of rude, but way down there by the office, somewhere around that Evo trailer right there is where Angela lost her shoe, and the rest is history. We got there along with some other people.
We could not hear each other screaming.
No.
He was trying to tell me, which I was disoriented. I couldn't see. I couldn't hear.
I had so much water from rain just pounding into my eyes. I couldn't see well. It was wild.
The group of people down here was screaming at us, come on, come on, come on. And I couldn't hear them. I couldn't hear him. He was right here. I couldn't hear him. He had to grab me by the shirt and say, forget the truck, grab the dogs. We're going, we're going, we're going.
And then they didn't want to get out, which was nice. So we're kind of diving into the truck they were in a panic mode.
We're screaming at them.
Like, come on, like they're going to understand.
I wouldn't come to us either. and it's wet out here, and the rain hurt, man.
Thunder and lightning. And
we were in a tornado.
And they were watching it down in the cellar, and they said that the center of circulation's passing over us right now. We could hear it.
Our Starlink went flying several feet.
On its face, completely submerged in water. And, you know, this Starlink's been through the mill. I know I've talked about it a few times. In just a random no-rain windstorm down in Texas, it's been blown off the roof and survived. It's been knocked over, I don't know how many times, and survived.
I guess the tornado's the line. It says, no more.
It ended up, the dish was on its face, fully submerged in water, flipped it over. It started picking up signal, which was good, but it wasn't great signal. So I tried to do a reboot. It gave me the vertical mast warning, which means it can't articulate anymore. And so I thought, well, Starlink's busted. We've had 3 years out of it. Good run, we'll get a new one. But did a reboot, and the stupid thing started tilting around and found a satellite again, and it just continues to do its thing. We had a couple of times this morning we had to switch over to cellular because the rain was so heavy that it couldn't get a great signal, but little dishy's no worse for the wearer, so I guess it stuck with us.
As far as we know.
It's been through hail and wind and snow and rain and ice.
It's been through hail.
Either way you want to spell it, the statement's true.
Okay, we're gonna enjoy this blue sky and hope that we're towards the end of this video.
And use this as a cautionary tale. I mean, I feel bad because we have preached to you guys to use your resources, the weather apps we like to use, the NOAA weather radios, the turning your Wi-Fi off at night so that you're not reliant on your Wi-Fi signal to get those alerts. We've done all those things. We had all the tools in the world, and shame on me. I honestly thought we were going to be far enough away from the storm to not worry about it, and it almost bit us, but it didn't. We lived to tell about it, and hopefully you guys learned something from it too.
And I feel like we need to say there was quite a bit of damage. There were some tornadoes on the ground that we did not experience, and OKC got hit pretty bad. What we went through was nothing.
Learning lesson, please, 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 please do not ever try to ride out a tornado or an extreme wind event in one of these things.
Just don't hesitate.
Just don't hesitate.
Don't hesitate.
And I don't even want to know what comes with dealing with an RV being destroyed in a tornado, but I can guarantee you it'll be a lot better to deal with if you're not in it.
Look, it's sunshine.
Start over. I was picking my ear. Sorry.
Picking your ear.
Well, I didn't know you were clicking it on right
I can
there.
find something. This is how I'm processing.
And I get to reap the benefits.
Oh, of the dumplings.
Do what? Do what now? Nasty? What? What'd you say? What'd you say?